So we can keep this ball rolling. Our next speaker is Jamie Blasquez, and she is running a Decrim Nature program up in Flagstaff. And very, very important work they're doing. She's putting her PowerPoint together right now. Not putting it together, she's just kidding.
Can you hear me on this? Yes?
Yep, I can hear you all right.
Okay, good. All right, so my talk is going to be from stigma to sovereignty, the future of psychedelic freedom. No. Did it go? Okay, no, don't look, close your eyes. Close your eyes.
There we go.
No. You get it at the beginning. Did that do it? Okay, here we go. Yay! Okay, so future of psychedelic freedom. So my story with psychedelics began in a kitchen conversation in 2019. I was a little late to the game. And a good friend of mine was telling me that one of his friends was dating a guy that was doing a little bit of mushrooms every day. And my response was, ew, what a druggy loser. And he was like, no, she says it's supposed to be really good for you. And I was like, oh my God, she's enabling his drug behavior. He needs help too. And he goes, no, she wants me to read this book, Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind. And I was like, I want to read that book because I want to know what crap she's trying to stick in your head. And so I ordered it on the spot. And when I got it, I devoured it. And I noticed page by page, chapter by chapter, something inside of me was building. I was like, that's interesting. Well, that's fascinating. And by the end of the book, when I was finished, I did a little research, and I just wanted to close some loopholes and get a little bit more clarity. And I read a quote, and that quote set me up. I was freaking pissed. I was like, are you kidding me? We knew about this all this time, and we're not doing anything about it. And I felt like the world, they owed me an explanation. Like, I was like, Dad, did you know about this? And he's like, drugs are drugs, kid. And I'm like, Mom, what the hell is this crap over here? And she's like, Jamie, you didn't see those kids with the LSD. They were like rolling around on the ground. And so I just didn't feel like I got any explanation from anywhere, and I was pissed. And anyone in this space knows where the anger stems from, right? Deep sadness and grief. Deep sadness. This book had triggered one of the biggest traumas of my life. When I was 11 years old, suicide stole one of the most important people of my life. This is my Uncle Michael. He was my everything. He was the sun in my sky. Whenever I got to choose a vacation, we visited Uncle Michael. I wrote, I called. He was my everything. So when I lost him at 11 years old, I was really isolated in my friend group because at 11 you can't really describe what's going inside. Like your whole world is shattered, right? The color from my world just gone. And I couldn't talk to the adults either because adults were weird and they used to say weird things like, I'm really sorry for your loss, kid, which really pissed me off because it's like, how could you even know? Because I was too young to understand. Like, that's just what we say to each other as adults because there's nothing you can do or say to help. And I had a hard time focusing in class because all of a sudden the Pythagorean theorem, like a squared plus b squared, didn't matter because my uncle's dead and who cares? And so I became very isolated and away from everything. And then my first suicide attempt was at 16. I got a really nasty autoimmune diagnosis by 20, and by 30 I had a full-blown addiction. So did this book trigger something? Yeah, just a little bit, just a smidge. So the quote that really set me off, because I'm sure you guys are wondering what the hell pissed me off so bad, was a famous John Ehrlichman quote. And this was Nixon's right-hand man, specifically with domestic policy. And this is what got me. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. And that was in 1994. And so that's when I decided we went wrong in policy. Policy is where we were going to fix it, and that's where I was going to start, and I dedicated my life to the policy movement. So I looked around to see what we had done, and they had decriminalized psilocybin in Denver, and I was like, man, that's not enough. Like, we need to do more. We deserve more for our people. And that's when I found Decrim Nature. They had decriminalized all naturally occurring psychoactive plants and fungus. That's the whole gamut. So we are not talking MDMA, and we are not talking LSD. Those are synthetics. We're talking all naturally occurring, and we're doing the whole family. If you do get involved in this, you will recognize this is Dr. Larry Norris. This is the head of the Decriminalized Nature movement. AI for the win. So I wanted to create a superhero, so I created a superhero with his face. Hilarious. Anyway, so Decriminalized Nature is what I'm going to be talking about. And I started digging into what the basis of this whole movement was about. So one, it's decriminalizing all naturally occurring psychoactive plants and fungus to make sure everybody has access to this. Accessibility and affordability for all. No man left behind. That's the bottom line. And then we need to protect healing-based ceremonies within community. Because in the Western model of the legalization model, which I'll get here in a minute, it doesn't cover community healing in indigenous practices and ancestral ways. So Decrim covers that. It also is going to help create local community-serving economies, because like I said, as the legalization model comes in, it's saying you have to do this, but we as a community can say we are going to create these systems around it, and this is how we are going to run as a sovereign city. That means integration circles, community circles, how you're going to get access to the medicine, how it's going to be ran in ceremony. And then that goes into the synthetic markets as they ensure. It's just going to make sure there is equitable access for all across the board. And then, of course, the most important, developing sustainable relationships with indigenous communities, species, and habits, because they really hold the key. So there's two ways to policy change, and I know this, like, a lot of people like snooze back because policy is not sexy, but just hang in there with me. So there's two ways to do this. There's the initiative. That's where you see people collecting signatures on the street. You need so many signatures for a population to get it onto a ballot to vote on it. Very, very expensive because you're paying the signature people, and it's very time extensive to get all this stuff done. If we are going to do decriminalized nature on a state level, we're going to need to go this way. Or we can go the next one, which is the resolution way, and that's completely community-led. So we're talking education and advocacy in a community. And so we gather, we are educated, we know what's going on, we create the framework and systems around this, and we go through the city council. And we speak at the city council, we meet with the city council, we hold gatherings within the community. And the exciting news is you only need a 51% vote through the city council to make this happen. We always go for unanimous because we're not trying to squeak anything by. These medicines are too important. The framework is vital along with the community. And so everyone is on board with this completely. And what we are doing is we're saying to law enforcement, this is the lowest priority. Okay? We are not putting anyone in jail for healing. We have decided as a sovereign city. And so the reason of how we're doing that is we're not allocating funding towards that pathway. So if I were to get arrested for mushrooms, the lawyers would come down and the prosecutors would be like, you gotta let this girl go. Like, we have no money to send her through the system. And we're not going against state and federal law because state and federal law has no jurisdiction on how a city allocates funding. That's how we're doing it. And it can happen as fast as 2 or 3 months, just by the way. And up to 5 years, by the way. So, and there's a lot of things because you'll hear the back and forth like legalization and decriminalization. So legalization is really prohibition light. It's saying you can use the medicine like this in this box. Anything outside of the box, you're going to jail for this. And so they don't say anything about possession and cultivation. And possession and cultivation are vital for healing. And so that's the decrim side. So the legalization, it's just saying, you know, this certain framework outside of this is legal, nothing about cultivation and possession. In Oregon, because you heard Chad say that it is legal in Oregon, you can get arrested for having mushrooms outside of a psilocybin center in Oregon because it's not decriminalized there. So, like I said, Prohibition Light. With Decrim, it emphasizes public health approach that focuses on risk reduction, education, and community support. And in the next slide, I'll show you what they're doing in Colorado. And then decriminalization involves reducing legal consequences associated with entheogens. Entheogens is the same psychedelics. And this creates a dichotomy where one is illegal and one is not. But really the bottom line, this is our personal liberty. Okay, nobody should be going to jail or being criminalized for trying to heal. That's the bottom line. So this is what they're doing in Colorado. Colorado did something a little bit different than Oregon and what New Mexico did. They legalized and decriminalized simultaneously. And this is my dream to see this happen for the state of Arizona. You need both. Because if we're doing no man left behind, and we are really under the belief that everybody deserves this medicine for accessibility and affordability for all, we need both, not one or the other. And so in Colorado, the regulated model is the legal model, the personal use is the decrim. The problem with it, the regulated model, we're just talking mushrooms here. And you know, we were just talking up here, like you need a whole toolbox full of stuff. It just depends what you're going through, what medicine and what attention you want. Colorado's only got the mushrooms legal. It's way more expensive. So you're looking at licensing fees, personal liabilities, taxes, and it's very expensive. So we're looking at $4,000 for a mushroom trip. So, and that's not even talking about like the runway you're going to need for integration and then the landing you're going to need when you're done. The other thing too that's a little, you're going to need government funding to get this program off the ground to start. So will it survive? I don't know. But the thing that we need it for is this side is more broadly supported and more palatable. More people will be like, yeah, legalize it versus decrim. But decrim actually supports the legalization. Like I said, all entheogens, accessibility and affordability for all. You can grow and possess. Grow and possess is the big, big thing with these things. Because in the regulated model, if I want a microdose, I have to go down there and take my microdose and kind of hang out a little bit before I can jet on my way. So if I can just grow, I can, dose myself and, do where I need to go to heal. Also, it's more community-based for risk reduction and support services. There's a lot of education in Colorado. Like Know Before You Trip is a 501c3 that really helps people get educated before they ingest these medicines. It allows licensed facilitators to personally use and experience these medicines, which is huge because that means we are helping the healers. We are supporting the healers in this model. An issue with advertising is you can't advertise online. It's got to be all word of mouth because if you do that, it's considered commercial, and then you're in the regulated model, and then you're getting in trouble. It also supports the decrim side, supports the regulated model because it really opens up the doors of communication, right? This is all about breaking the silence. This is all about asking the hard questions. And the decrim side really does do that. The issue with the decrim side is there's no oversight on accountability, right? You got to keep, like Mike was talking earlier about know your facilitators, know your intention, know your medicine. When it comes to the personal use side, it's a little bit more sketchier than our Western model side would hold people accountable with licensing and everything like that. Another thing a lot of people are worried about is risk. How dangerous are these medicines and the harm? So that's why I like to put Professor David Nutt's study up in here. And so the red is going to be harm to others, and the blue is harm to self. So you got alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, you got LSD, and mushrooms. So you can see there it's very, very low risk. And a lot of people, this is a big concern, but low risk.
Where's Tylenol?
Sorry. Probably by alcohol. These are a list of cities and states that have already decriminalized. So this we are jamming and we are moving. And the fact that we could do all this during COVID was huge because a lot of momentum was going, and then COVID just poo-pooed that big time. I wanted to show this on the map, and just so you know what the challenge that our state is under, because where we have already had movement, you'll notice these are big psychedelic regions back in the 60s. The East and the West Coast were huge psychedelic culture, right? You don't hear a lot of stuff like in Arizona. So the issue, right? Not yet. Mike is in town. But in the state of Arizona, what we're kind of facing is trying to get the medicine out with the policy. Because the medicine is what changed minds and changed hearts. And so this is kind of the issue that we're facing for Arizona, getting the medicine out. What I personally think, it's kind of like the wild, wild west, right? We got to break laws to change laws. And if we're going to do that, you might as well do it in the wild, wild west. So that's the one thing we got going for us. Right? Shoot from the hip. No, I'm just kidding. Don't shoot from the hip. So another interesting thing that I find in this ecosystem is a lot of people poo-poo Decrim Nature. They're like, Decrim Nature, legalization, yeah. And I don't understand why people are welcome to their opinions, but then they poo-poo Decrim, and then like 5 minutes later, they're like passionately talking about like what our base is, and I'm like, I think you're pro Decrim and you don't even know it. So these questions I've made to see, are you pro Decrim? Do you believe in accessibility and affordability for all? Do you believe in no man left behind? Right? My loved one deserves the whole buffet. They deserve the legal model, and they deserve the decrim model. Because like Chad said, not everybody's going to be ready for drums, smoke, and feathers. Like, I get it. I wasn't. Like, I thought they were druggy losers. Like, you're going to put me, like, you know, in ceremony with psych, you have lost your mind. I'm not doing that. So we have to meet people where we're at. But in my personal opinion, there is nothing the Western model can touch of the amount of healing that you get in ceremony with people, with a facilitator. It's so powerful, nothing can touch it. So, do you believe in accessibility and affordability for all? Do you believe Indigenous elders have the right to practice their healing work freely without state fees or retraining? Because the legalization model says, I know this has been passed down for millennia, but you don't fit in our model and you have to go sit in class and pay a licensing fee. Do you believe in the value of local economies and community-built frameworks and infrastructure? Do you believe in personal sovereignty in your relationship with psychedelics? Do you want access to medicine as soon as possible? And this is a huge thing, and I think that was talking earlier. Like, when I first got in this and I was attending these meetings, I was like, how the hell do we get people to the medicine? Like, we need help now. So Decrim is going to be the fastest way to go, because legalization is a lot of red tape. And if nobody's to go to jail for these things, we're talking about ending the war on drugs. And I think all of us in this room are praying to God that will happen in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And then, do you want a model that allows safe and responsible use without excessive government interference? And if you've answered yes to these questions, it's time to come out of the Decrim closet, okay? And here's how you get involved. We have orientation meetings. Dr. Larry Norris runs those every month, the last Wednesday of every month. If you want to get registered for that, email that. Good news, Tempe and Mesa are ready to pop. You got TJ, he's in Mesa here, and he's pushing, and Mesa's going, we'll do it if Tempe does it. Like, Tempe's more hippie than us, I guess. So it's Tempe Falls and Mesa Falls. So if you guys want to get involved and are ready to rip roar, Decrim Nature Mesa at gmail.com. I run the monthly Arizona meetings here. If you want me to put you on our Zoom call, email at decrimnatureflagstaff at gmail.com. If you want to learn more about decriminalized nature, there's the QR code. We have all sorts of handbooks and information and anything. Everyone got their pictures? I'm changing. I'm the one in the audience who's like, oh! So take your picture. So the next thing I really want to talk about is the importance of local infrastructure, because it's going to be our responsibility as a community to decide how we want these things ran in our community. So I'm also a co-founder of the Flagstaff Psychedelic Society. Our 3 pillars are based on community, education, and decriminalization. We have these 8 committees: integration, peer support, community ethics, microdosing, veteran and first responders, psychedelics, and end-of-life care. Psychedelics and end-of-life care is the one that actually flew off the fastest, which I was really surprised to see that. Psychedelics in recovery and sustainable relationships. And this is something that I definitely want to talk about. Jennifer Murphy, I don't know if you guys know her, she has got the largest lawsuit to end the war on drugs in history right now. And not a lot of people are talking about it. And this girl is such a badass, she took this thing on completely by herself. And so she's been working through the systems right now, and she's pretty much fighting for our freedom from intrusion from the government to our own agency and consciousness. And so the big decision day is going to be October 6th to see if they're actually going to see this case through and they're actually going to hear it. So watch for that. Here's a QR code to her website. And I just got my fingers crossed that they're actually going to hear this case and see it through.
Hopefully.
They better. Anyways, don't be so fiery. All right. So another project that I'm part of is the Normalized Psychedelics Project. And this one actually, because I feel like I have my fingers in so many different projects because there's just so much work to be done in this ecosystem. I had just moved into my apartment that I didn't know how I was going to pay for, and there's boxes everywhere. And I come out of a meditation and I was washing dishes at my sink and I saw these 3 flashes and I knew what I had to do. And so what the 3 flashes showed me was, I'll just show you. So it was the pathway that I'm to fill, because I just felt like Decrim Nature wasn't shown on the social media aspect of like what we really are and what's really happening. So I wanted to get a boots on the ground view of what's happening. And so the flashes was the route that I was to take in an RV. My ending point was this mushroom dispensary up in Canada, which is Dana Larson, and this gangster's selling everything over the counter. Not decriminalized, not legalized, just like selling it. He's wild. And that was a crazy interview. Like when I walked in the shop, I was like, there's drugs everywhere. It was actually liberating. And then I saw the co-founder's face. This is Artem. I've done projects with him in the past, and so I called him and I was like, yeah, Artem, I got this download, and we're going to do this, and, you know, we're going to go on this trip, and we're going to film, we're going to take this route, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, that sounds great, Jamie. Yeah. Call me in like 2 weeks. And I was like, all right. And then I called Larry, and I'm like, hey, I had this vision. I want to do this. Can you help me? And connected everything. And then 2 weeks later, I called Artem. I'm like, yo, I got our thing. Everything's ready to go. I just need to pull the trigger on the RV. Like, you in or what? And he's like, oh my God, Jamie, I thought you were high. And I'm like, we're doing it. And so anyways, we did it. We rented the RV and we started going through. And on day 3, we started capturing really powerful healing testimonials of psychedelics. And they were so incredible that I turned to him and I was like, we can't wait for this stuff. Like, we can't put a documentary together or whatever, like, nice wrapped bow thing that we wanted to present this to the world. Like, we need to get this out now, raw as it is. And he said, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that because this stuff is incredible. And so that's when we started the Normalized Psychedelics channel. We started releasing powerful healing stories of psychedelics. And so now we've created a 501c3. And so we're trying to change the world one story at a time. Just letting people know, like, it's okay to heal with these things and this is how you do it. And our goal is 1,000 first-hand healing stories to hopefully change the stigma around psychedelic medicine. And we want to shift culture, reduce stigma, and create human connection. And so this QR code goes to a landing page. We had this beautiful website, and someone hacked it, and it decided to wake up one morning and choose violence and take our website down. So we're in the midst right now of trying to get that back together. So this landing page will take you to, you can see our Instagram, our YouTube, you can sign up for our newsletter that we put out. And then if you want, and you want to be brave enough, you can submit your story, because we're constantly collecting those. So join us in normalizing psychedelics, share your story, and help us shift culture together. And a couple one that we've done so far is, you've seen this guy before, retired first sergeant, found his way to plant medicine. We did one on him as a really great story. This guy, George, healed multiple sclerosis with psilocybin. And for integration, he did meditation. So that's a really powerful story. And then another one is addiction and the 12 steps and how she healed with Ibogaine. And that's Jen. She's absolutely amazing. So that's the project that, another project I got going on. So in my opinion, there are 3 ways to push this movement forward: education and advocacy, policy change, and working within the medicine. And education and advocacy could be simply like telling your story, a community gatherings. Hold on, I have a cheat sheet here because there's so much to do with the space that. So education and advocacy, like your personal story, public education campaigns, workshops and trainings, digital platforms, Substack, newsletters, podcasts, YouTube interviews, short video form, just normalizing the conversation, highlighting risk reduction and event planning. For policy change, you can hang out with me with the Decrim, you can do state level campaigns, coalition building, or pilot programs. And then working with the medicine, and I think people get a little icky-sticky about this because it's a lot creating a container and carrying people through the journey, but you don't have to do that. You could do sharing circles, you could do drumming circles, you could do somatic breath, education classes, sound therapy, things like that, because we're going to need a lot of framework around these medicines to make sure people have, like I said before, a good runway, so the flight is good, and then when the landing is, and we're going to need a lot of help around stuff like this. So when I first started in this, I was pretty fiery about it. I was pretty upset. I was emailing a lot of seething emails to like congressmen and senators, and they kind of had to like reel me in and be like, yeah, we don't do it that way. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. So Tony Landry has since moved to Louisiana to fight for cannabis rights. But I would call him all the time and I'd be like, Tony, this is crap. This needs to be done and that needs to be done and this and that. And he'd be like, go do it. And I'd be like, I'm not doing that. It's not for me. Like, you kidding me? I'm not doing that. And he'd be like, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? And I'd be like, whatever. And then a week later, I'd be like, you know, Tony, this pisses me off, and it was like this constant thing. And so he would always be telling me that. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? And like the girl before me, like if someone would have told me that I'd be on the stage with a microphone and mushroom overalls talking about Schedule I drugs and how we need to decriminalize them, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. I would never wear mushroom overalls. But what I can tell you from the person that entered this movement to the person I am now, it has completely transformed me, not just in the medicine itself and the power of that, but in the way that I feel empowered. Because when you start talking to your local government, they work for us. They work for us. We say, well, what is the pretty woman? I say who, I say how much, I say what, right? They work for us, and we need to remember that. And so this movement has really made me feel empowered to the point where I feel like this now. So that's what I love so much about this ecosystem. And I'll say this. I know that so many of us are walking through this life carrying invisible wounds. And we're ashamed, and we are isolated, and we do not know where to turn to for help. But here's what I want you to remember. That you are not alone, and you are not broken, and you are definitely not without options. So psychedelics are not the silver bullet. They're not. They're not the fix-all. But what they do is they remind us of who we are. And when they are held in the container of ceremony, integration, and community, they not only heal us, they bring us back to who we are. They connect us to our soul, to one another, to nature, and to the divine. And that is some of the most healing things that you can experience in this life. So each one of us has a powerful role to play in recreating this new paradigm of health. And it's got to be one that's rooted in equity, in care, in truth. And that means breaking the silence, and that's the hardest one. And that means asking the hard questions. And that for sure means creating sacred space for people to explore their own consciousness without any fear, without shame, and without judgment. So if you've ever felt the darkness creeping in, or you've ever watched someone you deeply love suffer in silence, know that help is not only on its way, it's already here. And that the work ahead of us is not just about the medicine, it's about meaning. It's about reconnecting to our ancient ways, the ones that our ancestors knew. That healing is a communal act, and that ceremony is sacred, and that true transformation happens when we walk each other home. So I'll leave you with this. Don't just believe in the medicine, believe in the mission. Don't just heal yourself, heal with your community. And don't wait to ask for permission, because the power is already yours. So thank you. So do we have any questions? I'm sorry, I get a little butt puckery because I know a little bit, but not a lot. What moved through that?
Sir, how do we?
Hello. Okay.
I'm not sure how to phrase this, I'll try my best, but how do we approach government officials and policymakers with, hey, I like illegal stuff, how do you make it legal?
That's a really good question. And so this is what I tell people a lot, is get to know them. Just walk in there and just say, hi, I'm kind of for this. And if you can find a pain point and really get to know somebody, it's the 5 things. It's addiction, like depression, anxiety, addiction, trauma, or what the 5th one. But if you can attach a psychedelic to that and attach it to scientific research, you got them. You just go in there and you're just like, look, hey, all these cities are already doing it. I want to bring that here. And if you're a veteran, you already got one foot at the door because, we love you guys and appreciate what happens in this country for the things that you do. And if you want, you could lead with, I protect this soil. Why can I not heal on this soil? Can we just start there? It's personal. It's personal for all of us, I think.
It is. There's just, yeah.
Can we just scream?
You can scream.
I want to see you run up the stairs.
Well, first of all, I was very impressed with you. Thank you for all the work you're doing, and I'm excited to hopefully have an opportunity to work with you. One of the things that is kind of a fine line different is when we talk about psychedelics, that is the plant medicine, but we also have ketamine and MDMA, which is transformational for people with PTSD. So is it going to work in the same realm, or is it separate? Can we decriminalize MDMA and ketamine? Do we have to do it on a separate level?
That's a really good question, and my gut is like, I don't know, because this is like we're literally recreating systems that we haven't recreated before. The way I feel about that is the decrim is more for the naturally occurring, and I don't feel like the wheel for legalization is going to need any greasing. I feel like that's going to go through because it's going to make a lot of money. I kind of feel like we're on 2 separate tracks, if that makes sense, and one is hand in hand with the other. Because I feel like once someone understands what these medicines can do, it's like, why isn't any of this even illegal? And so, am I answering your question, or am I just babbling like a nerd up here? Okay, perfect, yeah.
Why are we infantilized by our government? That's the question.
And why do we ask their permission?
Why do they get to tell us what we're allowed to do with our life? It's not their lives, it's our lives. Why are they allowed to do that, right? We gave them that permission at some point, and we need to take it back. Jennifer Murphy's case is very important, and I really hope the Supreme Court hears it. I hope they do it publicly. So far, at every court that she's hit, they have refused to do it publicly. They have swept it under the rug, and they don't want public attention on this thing. They don't want public attention on them not acknowledging this thing because it is so obvious that they are breaking the constitutional rights of every citizen in the United States by enforcing these drug laws. It's that simple. So.
And if you guys are interested, I don't know if you guys, anyone in here is nerding out on legalese like I do. Her court case is 58 pages of some of the most beautifully written legalese I've ever wrote. I mean, I've never read a court case that made me cry. It's beautiful. She's really got it going on. So I'm really hoping that we can end the war on drugs and we won't even be having these conversations of, you know, consciousness and agency.
100%. Any more questions, guys?
So something that comes to mind is you spoke about at 16 you attempted suicide, and with this decriminalization of nature, how does that apply to younger kids, and could that have possibly helped you?
Girl, you're gonna get canceled. Honestly, with children, and this is kind of a debate that happens frequently, and honestly, that comes down to really parental.
So if it were regulated, would that be like 21 and above, as opposed to decriminalized nature, where it's not a crime?
Honestly, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would honestly. Okay, I'm going to back up really quick. Bird's eye view. This is how I feel about ketamine. Ketamine is phenomenal for suicidal ideations. Like, I've been in meeting after meeting where, like, we're trying like heck to keep this person alive, and this person does not want to die, or just wants to die. And then after 3 ketamine treatments, like, suicide is not an option anymore. So as far as, like, suicidal ideations in children, I see ketamine being really powerful in that. But I mean, let's just rewind to indigenous culture. Like, back when we were communal folks, like, we all participated in ceremony and ritual together, even as children. Like, I've heard of, like, children as young as, like, 12 and 14 ayahuasca ceremonies. And on a personal level, like, man, if I could be part of an ayahuasca ceremony at 16, where would I be now? Like, if I was open to spirit and open to the understanding of everything that is in the unseen world and spirituality, and like really brought back to my soul and reconnecting to my tribe and reconnecting to nature and the divine, like, what could I have been? I mean, I don't know, but I feel like that's going to fall back on the parents big time. And then I kind of have personal opinions about like microdosing and while pregnant during neurogenesis, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it all needs to be studied, but I feel like if I say anything else, I'm going to get myself in trouble. So
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Give it up for her. Again, if you guys want to help her, she does need financial support, because she's doing it all on her own. And look up her case and donate to her cause. But thank you. We're going to